I'm just here reading Matthew chapter 15, and when you get to 15 verse 21, it speaks of a Gentile woman, and it says, "Then Jesus left Galilee and went north to the region of Tyre and Sidon. A Gentile woman who lived there came to him, pleading, 'Have mercy on me, O Lord, Son of David, for my daughter is possessed by a demon that torments her severely.' But Jesus gave her no reply, not even a word. Then his disciples urged him to send her away. 'Tell her to go away,' they said. 'She's bothering us with all her begging.' Then Jesus said to the woman, 'I was sent only to help God's lost sheep, the people of Israel.' But she came and worshipped him, pleading again, 'Lord, help me.' Jesus responded, 'It isn't right to take food from the children and throw it to the dogs.' She replied, 'That's true, Lord, but even dogs are allowed to eat the scraps that fall beneath their master's table.' 'Dear woman,' Jesus said to her, 'your faith is great. Your request is granted,' and her daughter was instantly healed." I've read this scripture before, but today I read it again, and I feel like God was helping me understand this Gentile woman represents somebody that's not saved, somebody that's not born again, And I feel like this scripture is encouraging to somebody that is not born again, to know that so long as you have that faith, I don't believe that only people who are born again are the ones who can have faith. And that's why even when I was reading this scripture, I was reminded of the Roman officer, how the Roman officer was not a Jew, so he was not considered as God's lost sheep that Jesus was sent for, you see. But yet, when you read about the Roman officer, I can't remember, I think it's in Matthew as well, the Roman officer, because the Roman officer knew the authority that Jesus carries, he was able to, he was able to move Jesus' heart, and he was able to receive, his servant boy was able to receive healing. He also came to Jesus like this Gentile woman and was pleading with Jesus for his servant boy to be healed, you see. And his servant boy was healed. And in actual fact, Jesus was so impressed. He was so impressed with the kind of faith that this Roman officer had, that he even said he's never seen that kind of faith in all of Israel. He's never seen that kind of faith. You see, as a man of authority himself, he knew that if me, myself, I can send out a command, and the people who are below me, when I tell them to do something, they do it. When I send them here, they go where I send them. What more of Jesus, who is also a man of authority, that when he sends out a word, because in actually that story, Jesus was gonna go to that servant boy in person, and the Roman officer was like, "Nah, you don't even need to come to where my servant boy is. You don't even need to come to my house." Especially the fact that I'm a Roman, it's like Jews and Romans could not be in the same, I think, building or whatever. So this Roman officer was like, "Nah, you don't even need to come to my house. You just send out a word and it'll happen. I know it'll happen, because I myself am also a man of authority, and I'm also a man under authority, And I was reminded of him when it comes to this Gentile woman. And I feel like God was pointing out how, just because you're not born again does not mean you cannot move his heart. Even in this day and age, we are hearing of all these different people getting saved in the Islam community, whether it is Buddhist. Some people are not even, they are quote unquote atheists, whatever. but you're hearing of them having personal encounters with Jesus and they're giving their lives to Christ. You see? So this I feel like this scripture is an encouragement to people who have not given their lives to Christ. But you see, there are times where somebody who is not born again, example, might be in a desperate situation, whether they need healing for a loved one, or whether they're in, like, let's say like a really desperate financial situation and stuff, and they desire for a miracle to happen in their life. And I feel like when they truly have that desire to see God move in their life, and not just about the desire, but also they have faith that He's able to do it, I believe that God can meet that. In actual fact, even there's the scripture that says it is impossible without faith, it is impossible to please God. You see? So it is faith that moves God's heart. It is faith that produces that miracle. And so this is an encouragement to somebody who is not born again, feeling like, because they have not given their lives to Christ, that they can't move God's heart. I'm telling you, somebody, even, you see, example, these people, they were not quote unquote Christians. They were not born again. But it is their faith that moved God's heart. And then they were able to receive their miracle. You see? So this is an encouragement. And actually, I was also reminded of the scripture in Deuteronomy 4:29 that says, if you search for Him with all your heart and soul, you'll find Him. You see? Sometimes somebody might not even want a miracle to happen, but you just have that desire to have a personal encounter with God. You have that desire to get to know this Jesus that people are talking about. You have that desire. I'm telling you, if your heart is open to meeting Him, if your heart is open to receiving Him, if your heart is open to having that encounter with Him, He will meet you. He will meet you. If your heart is hardened and you don't want anything to do with Him, you don't want anything, you're not interested, He's not going to force Himself. He's not going to show Himself to you. But if your heart is open, you don't have to be a Christian or born again to have an encounter with God. Again, there are people all around the world who are not Christians who are having encounters. But you see, God is faithful. God is amazing. When you have that encounter, you cannot be the same. You surrender your life. You become born again. When you have that personal encounter with God, when you meet Jesus and you have that personal encounter with Jesus, you can't stay the same. You're gonna give your life to Him. You're going to give your life to Him. You cannot meet Jesus and not give your life to Him. It's not gonna be by your own strength. It's not gonna be by your own. It is Him. Being in His presence, you cannot stay the same. You cannot go back being the same person. But this is an encouragement to people who are not born again, but they have that desire to have an encounter with God. They have that desire. Just know, just like this Gentile woman and the Roman officer, so long as you have a heart that desires to meet the Lord, He will meet you. If you search for Him wholeheartedly, you will find Him.